Hello everyone, my name's Chuck playing as Riscapades in State of Survival. I am your regular garden variety nerd who started playing mobile games during the lockdowns. You may have seen my previous video on how to dominate an underground shadow event. If not, I highly recommend that you watch it. It details my strategy for the whole event. As you can see, I have maintained top position and I have a considerable lead over the second placer. As of recording, we are 11 and a half hours away from the end of the event, and I'm almost sure they can't catch up to my score. Again, if you want to know how I did it, just check out that previous video. This might be another heavy video, so I'll break down the content into chapters like in the previous one. That way you can go back to each topic easily. I'll place the chapters list down in the video description as well as in the pinned comment. Let's start with something easy, recovery times. The maximum recoverable oxygen is 240. You gain 1 oxygen every 2 minutes. If you start from 0 oxygen, it will take you exactly 8 hours to fill up the bar. The maximum recoverable research points depends on which stage of MIGO or YITH you're in right now. In stage 1, the maximum is 100, in stage 2, that is 120, and in stage 3, it's 150. You gain 1 research point every 3 minutes and 36 seconds. If you start from 0 research points, it will take you exactly 6 hours to fill up your research bar in stage 1. In stage 2, that would be around 7 hours and 12 minutes, and in stage 3, that would be exactly 9 hours. If you're the type who would want to maximize this recovery rate, you will want to stay on top of the recovery rate of the research points in stage 1 and stage 2, because during that stage, the recovery time for research points is shorter than the recovery time for oxygen tanks. In stage 3, research points now take longer to fill up compared to oxygen tanks, so you might have better, or you might be able to have more sleep at night. Now we move to something that's much more complex than the previous topic, and it is something that I like calling the wave progression. In simplest terms, the wave progression refers to the number of infected troops there are in each wave. You will see this if you inspect the combat diary, your reports. Normal mob tiles and boss tiles that are in infected mode will show you this report. Unfortunately, it is not as transparent for boss tiles in squad exploration mode, but underneath the hood, I think it's also there. For a bit of context, each infected troop has 1 hit point. In other words, they can take 1 damage before they die. If you kill all infected troops in a wave, you proceed to the next wave until you run out of troops. I only started recording the number of troops per wave in the first stage of YITH, and here are my results. In this progression, the number of infected starts at 3000 in wave 1, so I call this the 3k base. My max damage on this floors is around 3 million or just under 3 million, which means that I only get to reach wave 16. At this stage, I doubt you'll be able to reach 4 million damage, so you are soft capped to 16. In floors 9 onwards of YITH stage 1, the base starts at 15, so I call this a 15,000 base. My damage in this progression usually tops out at around 2.5 million, so I end up being at wave 10. In YITH Stage 2, Floor 1, I recorded a starting number of 30,000 infected in the first wave, so I call this a 30k base. My final damage here would be estimated at around 2 million or just under 2 million damage. This places me at wave 7. In floors 2 to 5 of YITH Stage 2, the number of infected starts at 45,000 in wave 1, so I call this a 45,000 base. My damage usually hovers at around 1.8 million. That's at 50% suppression, and that places me at wave 6. On floor 6 onwards in YITH Stage 2, the number of infected starts at 3,000 again. And I find this very curious because the previous floors were in increasing difficulty and then suddenly we dropped down to this very low base again. All boss tiles in infected mode in both stage 1 and 2 of Yeeth follow the 3k base. I made several observations while recording this data. The first of these is that the difficulty setting of each floor does not necessarily follow a logical order. In Yeeth Stage 1, I remember floors 1 to 7 have the same difficulty. By the time you get to floor 7, it feels so easy because you're too strong for that bracket. Then as you move to floor 9 onwards, suddenly you're using a higher bracket. So at that point, the normal tiles now start at 15k base infected, as opposed to just 3,000 infected troops in wave 1. In stage 2 of Yeeth, floor 1 starts off with 30k base. This starting number increases to 45k in floor 2 to I think about floor 5. At floors 6 to 7, it goes back to the 3,000 base. We haven't unlocked floor 8 yet as of this recording, so I'm not sure what the progression would be on those floors. This frustrates me so much, but I'll get to that later. My second observation is that boss tiles in infected mode always follow the 3000 base. Keep this in mind because this would be important later. The third observation that I made is that for the 15 to 45,000 base floors, the damage cap seems to be around 1.1 million or somewhere around that area. Even if I went over 500,000 above that damage, I would still be getting the same amount of cell samples as before. In floors with a 3000 base damage, even if I do 2.7 million damage, I get away with less cell samples than the higher progression floors. It's as if the damage cap for the 3k base is much higher than those with the higher bases. My fourth observation is that if I play with a weaker account, if I hit 3000 base tiles, I get higher cell samples in return, as opposed to if I use that same lower level player to attack the higher base tiles. It seems that if you have a high level player or a high damage player, you will do much better with higher base tiles, and lower level, lower damage players will do better with lower base tiles. Here's a graph illustrating the wave progression. The lines show the cumulative number of infected troops per wave, not the troops per wave. However, the graph for that should look similar to this one. The red dashed line is where I estimate the damage cap would be. The damage cap is around 1.1 million for the 45k base and just under 3 million for the 3k base. You'll see that the lower the base, the longer it takes before you reach the damage cap. On the other hand, the higher the base, the lower the damage cap. On paper, it would seem that the higher base would be better, but you also have to factor in your stats. A higher base means that more of your troops will die per round, so you'll need to stack multipliers early on in order to overcome that. As for lower bases, the slope is gentle, so in the low and mid damage range, they will yield more cell samples. This will eventually be overtaken by the higher base because it will take a considerable effort for you to reach the damage cap of the lower base. To summarize this section, if you already have hit the damage cap, just focus on the higher bases. But if you are far from it, maybe consider hitting the lower bases first. If you're stuck in a high base floor, just wait until the bosses are in infected tile mode. That way you will have your 3k base to work with. I highly recommend using an alt account to hit a tile on a new floor whenever you unlock a new floor. That way you would get to scout the base of those new tiles rather than wasting the oxygen tanks of your main account. A quick way to estimate the base is just to look at the values of the tile. The base of 3,000 and 15,000 tend to have times 700, while the base of 30 and 45k tends to have times 1600 tiles. The cell sample amount that you could get, from what I can tell, is soft capped at around 524. This is if you get all 15 levels of the sampling skill and unlock level 5 of the develop tactic. At level 5 develop, you get the second set of plus 10% cell samples boost. As I mentioned in the previous video, the tactics screen is not accurate. At level 4 develop, you get plus 10% cell samples bonus. You also get the -1 oxygen required per march. And at level 5, you get a further plus 10% cell samples boost. Another thing I found very interesting is the lack of golden skills under the Storm and Defend tactics. This makes this too much harder to level up. The maximum research points that you could get is 56. That's after getting 10 levels of supplies for a 50% boost, 10 levels of advanced research for a 100% boost, level 3 develop for a 20% boost, and the level 5 skill for a 10% boost. That's a total of 180% boost from a base of 20 points. Like the other aspects of this event, even my shopping is planned. As you can see, I managed to accumulate 404 cell samples. The first 3 refreshes are worth 100 antibodies each, so this means I can purchase 4 sets of items. I do my planning around that fact. I am after plasma cores and then maybe some chief gear badges in preparation for the red badge release. So a full set of 30 plasma cores is worth 36,000 cells. In 4 sets, that means 144,000 cells. I currently have 214,000 cells, so I'll still have 70k cells left over. Each badge is worth 1,000 cells, so that's easy. I can get 70 badges. And that's it for my deeper dive on the Underground Shadow event. If you like my style, please give this video a like. Check out my other analysis videos. Subscribe so you get notified of future videos, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.